All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the man who taught me this truth. I would like to say shalom to you, Akim, and you, Fuakwath, you men, women, and little ones that believe on the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Brother Michael Allah coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemah Shai, Lord willing to edify. And the title of this lesson is It Is Speaking. You know, these prophecies are speaking. And we see that, you know, everything that has been written is beginning to manifest itself more and more as we get closer to the end of Esau Edom's kingdom. You know, as we often talk about, you know, the Lord's words are faithful and true. You know, the words written in the Holy Bible wasn't just wrote for him just to sit, you know what I mean, at your grandmama's house on a table, you know, or wherever you may possess a Bible, you know, for it to not be, you know, open, or these just some words that's written that don't have no power to it, so to speak, you know, and that's not the case. And as you know, at Great Millstone, starting with our apostles and elders, you know, the spirit of warning has been on the prophets, you know, for decades, man, warning about what's to come, warning about the plans that Yahweh Shemah Shai has in store for this place, America, which is total destruction, you know. But before that destruction, by the way of World War III comes, we understand and know that the MOTB, Revelations 13 and 16, must come to pass. And that's also prophecy, you see. There's also prophecy, and these are the warnings that our Lord Yahweh Shai commanded us to give to the believers, man. You know, but let's go right here. Start off right here. This Habakkuk 2 and verse 3, it says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie." You see, so these visions, you know, means these prophecies, they've been set by Yahweh Shemah Shai for an appointed time to come to pass. It's a certain season, a certain time where certain prophecies would, you know, begin to manifest, so to speak, through different events. You see, whether it's a legislation getting passed that would build up to a certain prophecy being fulfilled, you know, all of these things, you know, they work together with one another just to fulfill the will of the Lord, you know. And that MOTB is that vision that's been set for an appointed time, and we see clear as day that it's speaking and is not lying, you know, by us seeing news articles, by us hearing different talking points from certain whistleblowers that give us, you know, insight, you know, or to further, you know, what's the word? To further prove that the words of the Lord are faithful and true. Not, you know, don't get it twisted. It ain't like we need articles or, you know, we need to hear it, you know, from E's mouth himself. We don't need that, because at the end of the day, the Lord said these things were going to happen, you know. But it just, you know, adds to the faith of the believers, you know, when you got news articles and, you know, stuff like that, you know, and it's really the Lord showing you, you know, that his words are faithful and true. But it says, though it tarry, so though these prophecies may seem to tarry, scriptures encourage us to be patient and wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So we see, the MOTB is not tarrying. Back in, you go back, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, going back further than that, the MOTB would be something somewhat far-fetched, which you seen the beginning stages of technology being implemented. So technically it wasn't, far-fetched. Here it is, you got airplanes that have been flying around since the 60s, but it's such a far-fetched idea that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, wants all humanity chipped, and he wants full control over your life. It's not that far-fetched, you see. But these prophecies, or the MOTB, was mainly tarrying at a point in time, but we see clear as day that it's not tarrying no more. And let's get it right here on Apple.com. And this was posted November 12th, 2025. It says, Apple introduces digital ID, a new way to create and present an ID in Apple Wallet. It says digital ID offers a secure and private way for users to create an ID in Apple Wallet using information from their U.S. passports and present their ID with iPhone or Apple Watch. So we see where this is going. Those of us that have eyes to see and ears to hear, we understand and know when certain moves like this get made, we know that it's all a build up to the main event, so to speak. This is all a build up. You got the CHIP Act that was presented a couple years back. All of these different small, gradual moves Esau makes on the left-hand side is doing nothing but building up to prophecy. Revelations 13 and 16. It says Apple today, because this is just a way of Esau conditioning the minds of the people that trust in this place, that trust in this system, to just depend on that charagma, So when a major event, like here it is, you just had it a couple weeks ago, a shooting, upon one of the National Guard members close by the White House. You had these different, crises that would take place that he was set up on the left-hand side to push forward, his solution, which is leading you people to that charagma, which is him heavily surveilling, the people, the masses of the people, having you people think that this is a well-needed device so we could track the comings and goings of men. This man wants to get into you people's thought pattern to try to predict crime before it happens, just off of your thought. Really, he thinks to be like the Most High. He wants to be the Lord, man. He wants to control you on the left-hand side, just like, how Yahweh Shem Yahushua controls everything, But he'll do it in a deceptive way. But we're not ignorant, us believers, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, man. It says Apple today announced the launch of digital ID, a new way for users to create an ID in Apple Wallet using information from U.S. passports and present it with the security and privacy of iPhone and Apple Watch. Yeah, you've been having a lot of security breaches in certain organizations. You had a lot of data breachings, in these certain corporations, and he wants to present it like, look, if you take the charagma wouldn't nobody be able to hack you anymore. Your phone won't get hacked no more. You know, people won't have their bank accounts hacked, certain social media accounts hacked, because you will be in control of it. You will be the one monitoring, you know, your information, so to speak. But whole time he's gonna have the ultimate access, the ultimate, you know, control over what you can and can't do. You know? It says, yeah, that's pretty much the point. You know, the digital IDs, you know, we see the stage is set, man. You know, there's no need to keep going on and on about it. But, you know, the prophets were sent out to warn of these things. With this Ezekiel 33 and verse 1, it says, again, the word of Yahweh Shema Washai came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast and set him for their watchman, and if we see, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people. Yeah, so we see the sword is coming. We see, the MOTB, which is the sword, it's coming upon the land, man. This is going to be a global thing, but it's definitely going to be mandatory for all of you people that dwell on the soils of America. In order for you to continue in this society, you're going to have that charagma. And as we often use as an example, the C-19 was a perfect example. Here it is, this man shut down the entire world, at that point in time. Everybody was on lockdown, Now you have certain leeway with certain cities, but the time we in with that charagma, you have to understand, it ain't going to be no leeway, And this is all going to be a form of blockade and siege tactic, military tactic that he is using and will use, to really trap you people, man. Because he wants to get you to trust, in this system, trust in him, But the prophets, starting with our apostles and elders, have been sent out to warn you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, not to trust your enemy. Don't trust this man's devices. Don't trust what he tells you, Don't trust his system. But forsake this place and trust in Yahweh Shema Washai. And we're blowing the trumpet. We're giving the warning. We're showing you, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Washai, how our enemy operates, Showing you this man's mindset, showing you his different, tactics that he uses, that he's always used, to snare Jake, It says, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and take him not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood should be upon his own head, you see? And this is why it's important for you listeners out there to know who you're following, It's important to make sure that the prophet you set, to be your watchman, make sure that he's warning you correctly, or he's warning you, period. Because you got certain Israelite camps out there that aren't warning you of the MOTB. They're not warning you of what's going on in the earth, man, because that's what these people are missing. They're missing answers. You see, these people in these different congregations, they're missing answers, you see? And the only way you're going to get the correct message, you have to have the correct prophet sent by Yahweh Shema Washai to give you that message. And once that message is given, if you decide not to take heed to it, which we're telling you, don't take the charagma, and you take it anyways, then you're going to be destroyed and the blood is going to be upon your hands. You see? It says, he heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning. His blood should be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. You see? So you see, the benefits of taking warning, of hearkening to the sound of the trumpet being given. Because this is information is able to save your life, as of like 2/3, they're going to be destroyed for the lack of knowledge. You see, because they're going to trust in Esau. They're going to trust in oppression. And they're going to see that, that wasn't the wisest thing to do, because you're going to have a lot of people, that trust in this place. You see, because he's going to use the tactic of, taking away your food, water, your everyday, day-to-day living. He's going to take all of that away. And he's going to literally, in a carnal way, he's going to try to force you to trust in him. He's going to use the carnal way of doing it, But we know to be carnally minded leads to death, but to be spiritually minded, that leads to life. And you making a spiritual decision, by you trusting in Yahweh Shema Shai and not this system, that's what's going to deliver your soul. That's what's going to save your life. This Psalm 62 and verse 10, it says, trust not in oppression and become not vain in robbery. If riches increase, set not your mind upon them, you see? So the point was trust not in oppression. We're not supposed to trust in Esau's system. We're not supposed to trust in, the things that he presents unto us, and especially, a charagma, something, that's a physical chip, physical technology, that he desires to put inside of you jakes, man. This is not natural, and he desires to put these things inside of you and to destroy you, because that's gonna, fully separate you from your power if you take that charagma, man. But that's why the Lord is telling us in advance, before the evil days draw nigh, on the steps that we're supposed to be taking, the certain mindset that we're supposed to have. And that's a mindset after Yahweh Shema Shai and not after this system. Because this is what it's going to look like. This Revelations 13 in verse 15, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, you see? And when you go into that word killed, it basically goes back to being an outcast, being separated. So you're going to be separated if you decide to take that charagma. If you don't decide to take that charagma, you're going to be separated from the luxuries that this place America gives you, such as your jobs, such as your certain housing situations, whatever things that you've accumulated on this side, whatever it may be, whether it's, you going to a certain, football game, all of these different things. Anything America has to offer you, you're not going to have access to it, You're not going to have access to it. If you reject that charagma, you're going to be separated from society, man. Meaning the homeless rate is going to go up even more, sky high, Crime is going to go up, It's going to be all out chaos. This is going to contribute to the increasing of Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble getting to a point where You ain't gonna be able to step outside a certain time of the day, or bad things is gonna happen to you. These are the times that we are in and warning about. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. You see, so if you don't have that charagma, you're not gonna be able to buy or sell. You're not gonna be able to do nothing. You see, it says, in that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. You're not going to be able to do nothing. And this is going to be, from your entertainers, such as these different celebrities, your favorite actor, Denzel, he going to have the charagma. A nigga like Floyd Mayweather, he going to have the charagma. A nigga like Drewski, he gonna have the charagma. Kevin Hart, LeBron. And they're gonna push that vibration out to the masses of the people, And if you don't take it, you ain't gonna be able to be an entrepreneur here in America. You're not gonna be able to upkeep your mom and pop businesses. You ain't gonna be able to have none of that. You see? You're going to be fully separated from society. You see? Well, let's go here. You know what? Hold on. Let's go here real quick. This Ezekiel 33 and verse 33, it says, and when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. Then shall they know that a prophet have been among them. You see? So when this charagma is fully manifested in you people's face, that's when you're gonna know that a prophet was among you. Your same little cousin that you look down on, your uncle J Man, you know what I mean? That you used to shoot the shit with back in the world, you know what I mean? Hell, even your son, your brother, you know what I mean? When this come to pass, you're gonna know the whole time that was a prophet of Yahweh Shemal Washai that was sent to give you warning, to warn you that the house is burning down. You see? But for some, it's going to be too late. So Isaiah 10, verse 20 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, Yahweh Shemal Washai, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. You see, so the elect, well, you're going to have 2/3 that's going to trust in oppression. Well, the elect is going to trust in Yahweh Shemal Washai. And the Lord's going to make sure, that the elect is well taken care of, such as food, water, shelter, because going back to that Psalms 91, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadows or the protection of the Almighty. So protection is and provisions is already made for the elect, man. But that's because the elect is going to stay upon the Lord, meaning trust. And that's why, faith is a important, characteristic to have, because we understand and know that without it, that's not going to please Yahweh Shemal Washai. This is Hebrews 11 and verse 1. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So this is the true biblical definition of faith. Is having faith in something that, you hope for, but it's not seen. You believe in something that's not seen, something you can't see with the physical eye. So right now, the Charagma's not on the scene. Businesses are still going. But when these things shut down, what's going to preserve us is faith. Meaning when we see these people that's taking the Charagma, Lord willing, we are the elect, But when we see these people taking the Charagma, trusting in oppression, still eating GMOs, we're going to trust in Yahweh Shema Shah. We're doing that now, though. We're being trained in a way to trust the Lord now, you see? And we're going to be on a whole nother level, when our hell break loose. That's why we hasten the destruction. Because the quicker the destruction gets here, or the quicker our hell breaks loose, the quicker the Lord is going to step in and show his power, man. And that's what miracles are going to be on display. That's what the Lord's going to give certain men spiritual power to work a marvelous work in these last days, man. You see? It says, jumping to the 6th verse, it says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. See? And this is going back to being spiritually minded as well. Having faith. So when everything with the naked eye seems to, not go according as planned, or to fail, so to speak, what other baggage you going to reach in? What else are you going to have? Like, think about it. Paint this picture. When the blackouts come, when society fully collapses, no more cars being driven, job losses at an all-time high, which we see AI is taking over jobs now, and a lot of people are suffering. But how much more when the shit just literally stops? What else are you going to do? And these are questions, to ask yourself, what are you going to do? You have to go back to the scriptures. You have to go back to that spiritual mind, which is you trusting in Yahweh Shema Shah, having that faith. You see? Because we understand and know that without that faith, it's impossible to please him. Matter of fact, let's go back to that Habakkuk real quick. Because if we go back to that Habakkuk, it tells you how the elect is going to be moving. This Habakkuk 2 and verse 4, it says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. And this is concerning Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Yeah, this man's spirit his mind is lifted up with pride, and he's not an upright nation of people, because his plans behind all of this is pure wickedness, His thought process is geared on destroying you, man, especially you tribes. But his main goal is to destroy you, man, and to separate you from your power. Because these nations, mainly Esau, understands when we are in line with our power, he understands that his kingdom is over with, He understands that it's a transitional power taking place, when the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American returns back unto Yahweh Shema Shah in truth. That is power in that, and that's divine power. That's something that he can't control. You see? It says, but the just shall live by his faith. So that's the point. The just is going to live by faith, the elect, phone froze. Come on now. So like it bear with me, my phone froze. I just get it over here. But going back to the Hebrews 11 and verse 6. So yeah, just showing you how the elect will be moving in these last days. The elect is going to have faith because we understand and know Hebrews 11 and 6, it says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. So we understand that without, that characteristic, it's impossible to please Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And we know when Yahushua was on the scene, over 2,000 years ago, Yahushua was all about faith. He commended, certain believers, and he acted upon certain requests just because of that believer's faith. That's why in the time of famine, and really the Lord is doing all of this just to see, do we trust him? It says, for he that cometh to the Most High must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. You see? So we understand and know this perfectly, man. And we know that the Lord is with us and the Lord got us, man. And that's our faith. But Lord willing, that was edifying. I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, man who taught me this truth. Peace and blessings be to the hopeful elect, your men, women, and little ones that believe on the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. Shalom.